creative work you were doing, like the work we were doing, you're doing now is just so interesting.
Mm.
Studying creatives.
Yeah, yeah, studying creative people, and this is a great combination because one of the things I've been trying to find is some interviews with comedians because it is such an interesting art. Making people laugh, right? I mean, it's such an interestingly different type of writing, so technical in certain ways, but yet some of it's just people built in. I one of the things I've been listening to lately, I got the audio book for Norm Macdonald's memoir. Did you ever listen to that?
No, but I'm sure it's fascinating.
It is really great. It's a great listen. So I guess I'm doing free publicity for Norm Macdonald today, but it's a great book.
We
And
have a sponsor now, Norm Macdonald's book.
yeah, he'd probably appreciate the whiskey part at least of this podcast. So, but there he talked about Rodney Dangerfield as being like the essential, like this pillar of comedy, and every movement he makes, every shift of the eye, every story he tells, just being somehow like from a different funny planet that he lived on and spoke from. And it does make me super curious, my researcher brain, like really curious as to looking into the comedy part of creativity, because, and I think you talked about it, it's a pass fail thing. It's hard. It's super, either makes it work or it doesn't, and when it doesn't, it's awful. And it takes a lot of courage. So
My first, I started hanging out, looking because I'm a director.
yeah.
It took me 20 years to realize that I love directing comedy. I love to laugh, and so why shouldn't I do that in my day job?
Yeah.
And I went to a comedian conference because I was like, oh, I'll find people to be in front of the camera. They love, maybe it's not they don't love it. That's what they do. They get up on stage and we were like, hey, everybody's going to try 2 minutes. Get up there and work out your 2 minutes. And they pushed me on the stage, and I was like, no. I write comedy, dialogue, like.
Yeah.
And I'm not a performer, I'm a director. They're like, you're here at this conference. Everybody at this conference is getting up on stage and doing 2 minutes. Write 3 jokes, get up there. And I was like, all right. So I did it, and the first round was successful. I blew up, and then the second one, second time I did it, I totally bombed. But what it made me realize, I'm a director, right? So
Yeah.
I'm creating shots, I'm creating vision, and I'm directing actors, I'm directing writers sometimes. But in stand-up comedy, you're the writer, you're the
Mhm.
performer, you are the setup and the punchline.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out how to do monologue, which is way sometimes more difficult than dialogue.
Yeah.
And you're the performer, and you're like you said, every movement is going for that laugh. Sometimes it's like, don't say a word and wait for the audience to be uncomfortable and laugh. It's a very interesting thing. So I'll hook you
Yeah.
up with comedians. And if there's any comedians here that want to do an amazing creative study with Dave, type your name in the
Sure.
chat, and I'll vet you for Dave.
Yeah, we'll test to make sure.
June Colson, right there is one right now.
There you go. That's fun. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's so courageous about comedy right now too is that I think we're living at a time with like cancel culture, whether real or not, whatever, like people's experience. But I mean, I think when you would look back and look at some of the most famous comedians ever, right? When you look back at Steve Martin, or even um, um, I'm thinking of like Beverly Hill Cops, Eddie Murphy stuff. And you stand up. I mean, things change so fast. And when I was a kid growing up, I don't remember people looking back at amazing comedians and being like, oh, well, that guy was actually kind of terrible because of things he said. I remember growing up and being like, everyone was like, oh yeah, he was really funny. You got to remember the classics. You got to look at the classic comedians. They were great, And now we're growing up in a time where I think people are looking back and looking at these people who shaped comedy and changed everything. And they're like, well, maybe don't make the same mistakes that person did, which makes it, I think, even more pressure for people who are writing jokes and doing comedy now to think about, well, how's my comedy going to be received in 10 years, right? Because that's your legacy, you know.
It's a very interesting thing. The things the court jester said to the king,
sure,
were about that time and that place. And I think that it's a very fascinating thing to take things out. We have the power now,
yeah,
with video like this. This video we watched, you know, someone's going to find it, you know, on the internet when the internet is old and when the internet is like 8-track.
Yeah, yeah.
When the internet is like 8-track, you know, somebody's going to find this podcast, and hopefully, that we will get a ninth viewer, and they will discover and be like, those guys were way off. But
Sure.
we're talking about it right now,
Yeah.
December something, 2021, not
2055. Yep.
in the year 2525, if I'm still alive. Yeah, so it's gotta be like that same thing. But back, so it's interesting. We last time we got together a few days ago on just a kind of like a live quick Zoom, we showed the whole. I went to a movie, but you and Amanda watched the whole one of our first collaborations. Tell. I want to hear your side of that story.
Everyone out there should just get a crack about this, because we haven't hung out for like years, and we finally get a chance to Zoom together. And this guy hangs out for 2 minutes and then bolts out to go to a movie with his kids. It's like, well, I'll tell you what, I felt really important. I felt super.
Priorities. My family felt great. They were like, oh, yeah. You dissed Dave Mattson for us? That's amazing.
That they knew. They were like, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. No, I'm just glad you're feeling better, man. I'm glad you could get out. I know you've been locked up for a while. And that was really fun. That was great to watch that together and be a part of that. And connect for a minute. It made me. It brought back all these fun memories of these ridiculous moments working on set together. Because everyone who knows working in production knows there's always stuff that happens. There was a one time that I will never forget where we were working in this building. We were working with Pete Pastiglione. I don't know if the last time you worked with him. Such a funny guy, hilarious. I mean, I've always enjoyed being on set with him. Dude, what a great guy. And I remember I was PA in that day, and I was bringing back lunch from, I think it was like, doesn't matter, but I was bringing it up the elevator, and the doors, you remember this now, the doors open, and I immediately trip on the lip of the elevator, and I have like 7 salads in these like flimsy plastic containers, and it's like right out of a script. I'm like, and they go everywhere on the ground, and everyone just turns around. And you guys work hard. I mean, everyone's starving. This is like the one thing that's like everyone's looking forward to, like at least on a commercial.
You had one job. You had one job.
Yeah, one job all day, basically. Like, take an hour and a half, 2 hours. Make sure you get the lunch order right. And I'm just sitting there, just all over the floor. And then I'm like, I'll be right back. Like, I'll go get more food. So these things shouldn't happen to you. Don't let it happen to you at home, guys. Don't do that if you're PA. But I didn't get killed.
You kept us laughing. So we had you back. We were like, you know what,
Yeah.
He's a good writer. As far as production assistant goes, he's a good writer.
Yeah, like let's get him to writing as fast as possible and make sure he can write down the lunch order. That's it. Everything else, yeah.
He wrote it perfectly. It was very artistic the way the characters in the script. The characters got their lunch on time, and it was delicious.
Yeah.